Hi there, Cosmic Family. My name is Yalial. I am here to talk about the astrological energies of this week from June 15th until June 21st. So, we have a lot of movement, and this week begins with Venus in Leo as the main character, and this is a description that is very linked with this position of Venus. This means that the experiences in relationships could have a very important impact, that events related to this topic and other ones that I'm going to describe are impulsing evolution in that house of our natal chart. You have to look up Leo in your natal chart to know where Venus is transiting. So here there is this desire to be seen, and of course, in order to do that, we have to learn to see ourselves and to see other people, to know how to occupy our place when we are in this position of receiving attention of other people, but also to give the space to someone else to receive the attention too. And this thing of sharing ourselves, it is not clearly the same of doing things with the only motivation of obtaining attention, because this could come from a childish need. And instead of, and perhaps we could do that with not the most certain behaviors, and even provoke the contrary of our desires, of the things that we really want to happen. We could also talk about creative processes, activities that we enjoy a lot. It could be artistical ones or of other types, talents that we want to share, exposition, the way in which we want to show ourselves. If we are feeling fears of expressing ourselves authentically, or if we are creating this image for other people that are making us feel very disconnected from the world and precisely not seen. The aspects that I'm going to mention right now are the same aspects that I mentioned the last week. I made a more focus in the last one. I am talking about that on June 15th, Venus in Leo perfects this sextile with Uranus in Gemini. On June 17th, it creates a trine with Neptune in Aries and an opposition with Pluto in Aquarius, which is a tension. So this sextile with Uranus is more about opportunities of making changes in a dynamic in relationships. This could be about detachment or breaking with a way of behaving in a very fluid way that perhaps we didn't feel authentic. Could be about communicating something that we want to say from our hearts. Could also mean new connections that bring a lot of innovation, evolutionary movements in our lives. We could talk about romantic interests or other people with whom we can associate to create, to bring ideas that cause us enthusiasm and that are making us feel that there are new opportunities. If this doesn't involve other people, could be a very good moment to put in practice projects that we enjoy a lot. Perhaps we could generate resources through them, but I wanted to make this emphasis in approaching them from this place of reconnecting with playing, with enjoyment, which is a more elevated way of involving, including our inner child. The trine between Venus and Neptune in Aries, and these combinations between fire and air are amazing. This trine could represent certain situations or opportunities that are aligning us with a dream, a vision that we want to put a lot of energy. This could mean obtaining also certain recognition for something that you have been doing, that other people can notice your work or your creative projects, that they can turn more visible. Connections that are inspiring us a lot, soul encounters, people with whom we can move forward in the direction of our spiritual purposes on earth. At the same time, we have, as I was saying, attention, which is the opposition with Pluto and Aquarius. And the fact that this is happening at the same time with the harmonic aspects, it is very important because, well, this transit removes a lot of parts of us, usually, that causes rejection to see, and they are going to be reflected in external situations or other people. We talk about power dynamics, where we are trying to control something or where we are feeling controlled, experiences that are making us feeling fears. Perhaps this is about showing up in front of a community or approaching a particular person. Situations where there could be manipulation, and well, many times we think that this is far away from us, that other people do that, but for example, being in constant attention of the life of other person, so that person can recognize us what we are doing, or because we want that person to act in a way that we are expecting, is a form of manipulation and wanting to obtain energy. But well, we can also be allowing being manipulated. For example, a person that tries to impose in a very arrogant way, which is one of the shadows of Venus in Leo and the energy of Leo in general. And we end up entering in a discussion because we don't want the other person to win or to be right. Uh, in the end, it's the same shadow reflected. So if the manipulation enters, it is because there is an unconscious aspect projecting itself. Also, abuses of power, the ones that we could allow or that we could make. This means taking or demanding more energy, resources, attention from what we really should do, we really should demand. And this, the same thing that I was explaining applies in here. If we allow those things to happen to us, there could be a part of us that is in resistance to express or to say whatever thing we need to say, because there is this fear of the reaction or the external rejection. If we are doing this, it is because perhaps we are pretending that other people should cover our voids and the childish needs inside, and this is not something that corresponds to them. So this sextile in the trine, they are presenting this great moment to let go of or to solve whatever thing we recognize that is not aligned with the kind of relationships or life that we want to experiment. So on June 19th, Chiron enters Taurus. This happens in this first instance until September 17th, because Chiron is going to retrograde and to return to Aries. So the definite entrance in Taurus happens actually on April of 2027. And this is something that you have been feeling, that we have been feeling already, because every time that a celestial body is moving from a sign, this is a key moment of activation of that energy. Chiron has been transiting Aries from 2018, officially 2019. So this asteroid is related with the wound, the painful experiences that marked ourselves in this life or in other incarnations. And when we are willing to face them, because when we talk about Chiron, there could be this great tendency to avoid deal with that pain, or we could fall in this victimization. And I wanted to clarify, we could talk about experiences that clearly we were victims, or we didn't have resources or ways of protecting ourselves. But I am referring to be anchored in that space, or to try to bring this to the rational mind, to try to understand in order to make that disappear. These kind of mechanisms are going to create conditioned answers, responses to that probably are going to create this imbalances in our lives and in the environment. And this happens for all of us, actually, because, that is part of the path until we learn to deal with what is happening. This is not about eradicate, nor running away, nor escaping. It is more about opening to life through what is imperfect and what is painful, because that scar could actually connect us with light. It is a resignification of the experience and a way of offering, company and healing for other people that could also impact us. So Chiron in Taurus has to do with the wounds associated to material stability, to our value, our resources, our talents, our capacity of enjoy or of feeling pleasure, of resting, respecting the processes in the matter, and their relationship with our body and with the earth, and with life, there is a lot to deepen in here. But for example, a person that experimented an extreme economic situation, that experimented hunger and the absence of stability, could be a person that later has to deal with the fear of losing or not having. And this could be expressed in this excessive attachment to the material possessions, accumulation, or difficulty to share, to give. Or the contrary polarization could be a person that is rejecting matter, or even neglecting their own physical needs because of the same fear to experiment that pain again. So we could also talk about I don't know the expression in English, but yeah, these illnesses that are linked with I forgot with food, with food habits, people that are rejecting or disconnecting from their bodies. In some way, many of the illnesses that turn into something that is chronic are speaking of this, of how traumatic experiences that weren't managed in the emotional, mental level are anchoring in the physical body. So the sensation of incapacity to allow ourselves to rest or to enjoy life, of receiving and deserving, this could also be linked with Chiron in Taurus. And these are things that we can identify and change. Also feeling that what we have to give to other people, that is not that valuable or appreciated, or well, perhaps that could also lead us to discover other ways of contributing with value that we weren't conceiving. So, as I was saying, this is only the beginning. This is the first experimentation of what could represent Chiron in Taurus for each one of us. Okay, on June 20th, Uranus in Gemini perfects this square with the karma nodes, North Node in Pisces and South Node in Virgo. I've been mentioning this in the last videos, but this week is going to be intensified. And this is still on track until the nodes are moving out from Pisces and Virgo, which is in July. So we could talk about disruptive information, unexpected revelations, changes of plans, and even chaotic situations that are going to have the function to move ourselves from a perception, a way of behaving, a routine, a habit, a form of service that is limitant and that is not operating for our greatest good. And the greater the resistance, the more abrupt are going to be the Uranian impulses. I am referring that when there is already a recognition of the experiences that are draining our energy, of these helps or services that are not making us feel good and that are not contributing, let's remember this, that are not contributing with other people either. These behaviors that are linked with perfectionism, that are preventing us from making decisions or beginning projects because of the fear to deal with failure, or not wanting to move out from a habit or known space because we don't want to deal with the uncertainty. These could attract external chaos, so the necessary discomfort is produced and we can move. Right. On June 21st, we start the winter solstice here in the South Hemisphere and the summer solstice in the North Hemisphere. The sun enters in Cancer, so we begin a new season. And this is the seal of this is an aspect that we haven't experimented, at least in the last 40 years. And it is the sun in Cancer in this sextile with Chiron that has just entered in Taurus. It is a great moment to deepen in process and therapies, resignifying experiences of the past, looking at our fears and insecurities regarding material or emotional stability, our value, in a more loving way and in a more integrative way. It is about observing the familiar circle or the situations that perhaps created these imbalances in our lives, because observing the origin of the conditioning could be something very healing, but later we have to descend that to the body, to the emotions, and to decisions. So Cancer is about learning to recognize and to nourish our emotional needs, because that is truly how we can actually recognize and nourish those of the others. Because when we are doing that from our lack, from these spaces of emotional lack, there could be a tendency to give what we need and not what other people are requiring. So this is an aspect to take care of ourselves, of our body, of our emotional regulation, to create this sense of belonging from nourishing dynamics, and not only on the familiar ones that are not always positive. So this in Cancer is already activating. I'm going to anticipate myself because actually this is part of the next week. But well, it's activating this square with Neptune in Aries. I am going to expand certainly on this. But well, this is an invitation to get rid of those veils and ways of self-deceit that are far away of contributing with our healing or creating emotional security in the present moment. Emotional security, not from the attachment of parts of our identity, spaces, or people that are keeping ourselves in a stagnation, but from recognizing what does make us feel good, what represents this circle of support and nutrition and nourishment. Sorry, and the people that are not are not participating of that, and from the identification of what right now is a need of growth, inner and external growth, so we can feed that energetically and physically, to know how to sustain ourselves, to protect ourselves, to feed ourselves, and to offer that. And of course, to allow ourselves to be vulnerable, to allow ourselves to be sustained by other people, because without this, there is no true healing. Being accompanied by other people, it is vital eventually, this goes beyond the phase of your lives that you are going through right now, because there could be people that have been operating in these excessive dependencies and other people with difficulties to open themselves. And I am not only talking about relationships. This is also open ourselves to life, to not know everything and still being able to respond to what we intuitively perceive, which is a quality of Neptune. The thing is that with this square, people could create these quick ways of growth from the self-deceit, could make decisions that bring an apparent benefit initially, but are not actually bringing growth in the long term. Or there could be the sensation of feeling lost because we don't have all the answers, and we never have, actually. Or wanting to sustain relationships or known spaces, to not deal with the uncertainty that the rational mind is creating towards the new. And doing this from a lie, from wanting to believe something that is not being reflected in reality, and that is a fantasy that is compensating our imbalances and painful experiences. So this could bring a crisis of sense, and in other cases, disillusionment, the seeds that are coming to light. So I wanted to anticipate this energy. Thank you, everyone. See you in the next video. Ciao, ciao.